Today is December 1st, and as we enter the last month of 2012, the nation's eyes are on midnight New Year's Eve. You see, that's the moment of the fiscal cliff that has taken center stage in the media lately. In case you've been hiding under your pillow hoping it would all just go away, which I've admittedly been tempted to do myself, the fiscal cliff describes the massive hike in taxes and the massive cuts in government spending scheduled to kick in January 1st. The hike in taxes would come due to the expiration of the Bush-era cuts to income tax rates, and the cuts in spending would come because that's what Congress legislated would happen at this point if they failed to come up with a budget plan to significantly reduce the deficit over the next decade. To listen to the talking heads right now, you might come away thinking that the Democrats sound bizarrely rational. After all, why not increase taxes on the top 2% of earners in order to cut the hardworking lower classes a break? The rich can afford it, right? In contrast, the Republicans sound downright greedy, holding out on a deal just to protect the wealthiest Americans, perhaps ensuring that those rich folks can afford their fourth home in Aspen and a summer cottage in Tuscany. As per usual, however, we're not being told the whole story. Now for starters, let's look at the biggest number in the equation. At present, our national debt stands just over $16.3 trillion, though perhaps stands is the wrong word as it implies a stationary object. The reality is that our government is spending money so fast that we've added over $1 million to the national debt just since you pressed play on this podcast. Our current annual federal tax revenue is just under $2.5 trillion, and we're spending at a rate of over $3.5 trillion annually. The net result? We're having to borrow over $1.1 trillion a year to cover a government that has overspent its bank account by 31%. According to a study by the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, the tax increases that the Democrats are currently proposing would raise an estimated $950 billion over the next decade. Again, this sounds pretty good. Why not cut $1 trillion off of the deficit? But divide that number by 10 years and things start to look bleak. Even if I generously and incorrectly allow that these higher taxes would generate a full $1 trillion over the next decade, that would mean only $100 billion of extra revenue per year. Apply that amount to the current deficit, and we would only manage to shave the 0.1 off of the $1.1 trillion deficit. The net result would be a national debt continuing to grow at a rate of over $1 trillion a year. Now, if we follow the Democrats' plan and try to tax our way out of this thing, to raise taxes enough to cover the current deficit, the government would have to raise taxes on everyone across the board by 31%, rich and poor alike. Somehow, I find it difficult to imagine them securing sufficient popular support to go that route. The only other option to bring that deficit under control is to rein in the utterly out-of-control spending that has taken place in recent years. Contrary to what you might have heard, the Republicans are not holding out to continue lining the pockets of the wealthy. They're holding out in the hopes of forcing the Democrats to rein in federal spending. Because here's the real danger. If the Democrats get their way and the government okays higher tax rates without substantial spending cuts, the powers that be will claim they are acting on a mandate from the American people. And perhaps they are. But the result will be debts and deficits that continue to grow at astounding rates without nearly enough revenue to compensate. Sooner or later, our debt will get to the point that we won't even be able to afford the ever-growing interest on that debt. To simplify this as much as I can, the Republicans are trying desperately to slam the brakes on a car that really is heading straight for a cliff, and the Democrats are pressing the gas pedal closer and closer to the metal. Whatever happens, you, me, and everyone else in this country will be riding shotgun. Who do you want to win? I'm Jeremy Pond, and this is Reality Check.